small till it ain't, till it ain't, till it ain't, till it ain't. I'm building up a wall till it breaks. She hated when I call and it's late. I don't wanna keep you waiting. I hope I never keep you waiting. She think I know it all, but I don't.
Good afternoon, Caitlin.
Hey, morning, Scott. It's morning here in Vermont. It's Saturday morning, in fact. I'm in my I'm in a garden after this shirt.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you
got some weeding
gardening?
to do.
What are you doing in the garden? Greetings from Lake Maggiore, Italy. It's
That sounds
afternoon.
very fancy. Like Hollywood stars are there.
No, that's Lake Como. I'm in Lake Maggiore. You would love,
Oh, it's not
well,
so
you might, I
fancy.
think we would, it's like Italy fancy. So of course, it still has like really nice stores and stuff, but it's
Yeah.
like a town of 11,000. And yeah, no, greetings. You're about to go
Hi.
outside?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
Saturday
hot?
in June.
Is it
Everything's
super
coming
hot?
alive here in New England.
Yeah. Wait, how warm is it? I heard it was kind of warm in Boston recently.
It is 69 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment. For our
Oh, yeah.
metric system listeners, I have no idea what the conversion is ever.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
very
no.
comfortable temperature.
Good, good. You got to have any company out there with you?
Yeah, so Scott, I just got my spring chicks. Do you want
Yeah.
do you want to see? So I am a chicken lover. I've had chickens for more than 20 years. I Every few years, you have there's a chicken attrition problem, which is if you let your chickens free range, like things do happen to them, like your neighbor's cat and a
Oh,
fox. And
totally.
so every few years, you have to get some new chickens. And I got my new chickens. You want to see them?
Yes, I do want to see them.
Okay, I'm gonna share. I took a video. Let me go back. Okay, are they not so cute?
Oh, they're so cute.
I
Five
got
of them.
all different kinds. I've got, for the chicken lovers out there, I've got like some Cochins with their little feathery feet, and I have a buttercup,
Oh,
and I have two speckled Sussex, which are my favorite chickens in the world. Um, they're making me very
do,
happy.
do they get along? Are they part of the
They do
same
if they're
like
not,
litter or something? What do they call it? They're not litters. They're
I mean,
like,
a flock. They get along. It's a
well,
little
but
tricky. It's a little tricky if they're stressed. So if you have chickens, like if you see chickens that are in like factory farming situations, they often like cut their beaks because if they're really close together and stressed, they'll go after each other and it's very sad. But if you have
yeah.
really happy chickens like mine who are just roaming around and getting to eat all of my hostas and making me mad about that, they as long as they
Uh-huh.
have enough space, unless you get a mean one, they tend to like be fine together.
You will be able to pick them up at some point when they're
Oh,
big?
mostly, yeah, usually. It depends on the hen, but my speckled Sussex in particular, which is my favorite breed, is like very, very friendly. Yeah, you can pick them up. My kids, when they were little, would carry them around on their arms like a falcon, except for it was like a chicken. It was pretty ridiculous.
You used to have some called like Heckett and Tobit and Probit and Logit, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I have long named my flocks after a theme, and so I had a flock at one point that was named Tobit, Logit, Probit, Hecate, and Peckett, and then I added Heteroscadas Chickadee. Do you want to know the name of this new flock?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm gonna let you see if you can see the theme, and also I don't know if what I'm about to say is weird, but it's the truth. This is
Okay.
the name of this
All
flock.
right. Okay.
Um, Xavier, Clément,
Oh. Okay.
Brant,
Wait, what was that? What was that last one?
Clement. I don't know how to say a French name.
Oh. Oh.
Brant, Pedro, Bacon, Li Yang, Sarah, and Scott.
Aw. Diff-in-Diff flock.
It's the Diff-in-Diff flock. I will say there's nine chicks, And I
Yeah.
named 8 of them, and my little 4-year-old niece has reserved one to name. So there's going to be one that's not like the other for sure. That'll be
Oh
like
my gosh.
Rainbow Unicorn or something. But
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Wait, which one was
Is it
me? Was I
okay
in
to
that
name?
picture?
What's that?
Wait, go ahead. What was your question?
Is it okay to name chickens after people without their permission? This is my etiquette question of the day.
Right, right. It's not like the Amish. It's not like you can't take photographs or whatever. Is it the Amish you can't take pictures of them? Who's that?
I don't
That's somebody, right?
know.
Okay, maybe you can. But I think it's fine. I think I'm gonna speak for the Diff and Diff people and say that it's very much an honor. Can you show me which one's me though? That's all
Yeah,
I
I
really care
can't. Let me
about.
see. Hold on. Let me share again. You are the buff Koshin. Let's see if you made it into the video. Let's go back
Okay.
and I'll pause it.
Okay.
Uh-oh, my video went away, Scott.
No.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna have to do that again. Um, let me see.
Mm, I've never had anybody name their chicken after me, and I'm very honored. It's like an honor. It's like that's probably how it feels when you get like an honorary degree.
Yeah, exactly. Sure is. Okay, so let me see. Are you in here?
Yeah. Okay.
Um, that's a silver-laced Cochin chick right here, and that is, I think, a. Oh no, that is you. You see this one
Which
right here,
one?
this little golden one in the middle?
Oh yeah, that's me.
That's Scott.
I'm taking a
You
picture of
are
it.
a buff Cochin. See, I don't know if you can tell, but you have little feathery feet because Cochins have feathery feet that keeps them nice and warm in Vermont winters. They do very well and don't get frostbite. You're very robust to New
Ah,
England weather. And
that feels
over,
just like me. That's exactly what I would say I'm like.
do you have feathery feet?
I love the robust to New England winters.
This is Bacon right
I
here
have
that has the strip
which
down its
one?
back. This one right beside you
Uh,
actually is Bacon.
okay.
Yeah, this is Pedro. And
Oh my gosh.
I hate to say, but Pedro is the runt of the litter, and I'm a little worried about Pedro, but she she seems to
It's
be.
about time. I feel like yes, exactly. He is the runt of the litter. I'm gonna tell him that that's what nature has assigned him. Like in a game theory, nature has assigned you to be the runt of the litter. It's not, we didn't do that. That's what nature did. All right, keep going.
Yeah,
Who's that guy in the
yeah.
top or that woman, the person at
And
the top?
the Xavier.
Oh, oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah. My kids are like,
Well,
why did you pick these names? The only name they like is Bacon.
yeah, exactly. He's got a
Yeah.
great nickname, right? And that's so good.
Yeah,
Bacon
it's
is such he's the
fantastic.
best nickname. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I let my kids name the last flock, and one of them ended up named Farty Toot Snort. And I was like, that's it. Like
That's it. You're done. You're
that's it.
cut
You're done. I
off
mean,
from
my
the
kids are all
you're
older
cut.
now, right? Like my youngest is
Yeah.
17. I was like, this one's my flock, kids.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. That's great. Um, I heard a rumor that you have a new paper that might be in the newspapers as of yesterday, according to when this is going to post. Is that
Yeah, so
right?
we're recording on Saturday and we'll post this podcast on Tuesday. So when it's public, if all goes according to plan, and then I will have a new paper out in the MBR Working Paper Series, and the New York Times is covering it Monday morning. And I'm excited because this paper is co-authored with my oldest son, Zeke, who's 24. It started as his senior thesis at Middlebury College, and we've just continued to work on it since he graduated. And now it's done,
Oh
and
my
we've
God.
got it's got a super sexy result, which is we have long been obsessed with the causes of declining fertility. And, fertility has
Yeah.
been plummeting since 2007, and the conventional economic stories just don't seem to explain what is going on. Like Kearney and Levine have a really nice piece that's also an MBR working paper. They updated it a few months ago on this, and I completely agree with them, which is basically the standard theories don't seem to apply. There's been just like the shift in how people spend their time. And Zeke and I specifically study whether it's the causal effect of smartphones. And so we find
Oh,
that the iPhone, the introduction of the iPhone in particular, explains a third to a half of the fertility decline that was observed between 2007 and 2011. So, in some senses,
wow.
this is like a very focused study. Our natural experiment's very focused on that period. but I also think it's the first credible causal evidence that smartphones do likely play a large causal role in what we're seeing. So I'm pretty
How are you
excited
doing it? I
about it.
thought, how are you, what's your identification strategy?
Yeah, so
I thought the iPhone just came out at once.
it
What are you doing?
did. Yeah, and that's the problem. And Zeke and I have been talking about it forever. These conversations always start with me saying to my four kids, kids these days, what's going on with y'all? I want grandchildren. Get out there and date. Um, and but also just us kind of talking about what's going on. And so but the causal story is really hard. Like a lot of people have long thought that it was likely that the diffusion of smartphones has changed how people spend their time, but and fertility did start plummeting in 2007, which is exactly when the iPhone was introduced. And the iPhone's really the first modern smartphone with like the touch screen, and then the second gen has the App Store, and like it really changes phones. Um,
Mm,
but here's the natural experiment that we came up with. When the iPhone was introduced in the US in 2007, AT&T had a carrier monopoly on it for 4 years. You could only
mhm,
get an iPhone through AT&T, no other carrier. And
mm,
AT&T's broadband, and we're talking kind of early generation broadband, but its broadband was actually quite
mhm,
limited. Like its network was more limited than Verizon's, for instance. And so the natural experiment here is that you could get the iPhone in some parts of the country and not in others. And we use a
mm,
couple of approaches. We used a entropy balanced Poisson, and then we also use synthetic Diff-in-Diff, and basically
mm,
show that fertility for young people starts falling way faster in the places where you can get the iPhone relative to places where you
mm,
couldn't. And we also
mm.
show for older people who are 35 plus, so their births were going up a little bit during this period. But we show that they
Yeah.
go up way more if you can't get the iPhone, and it's depressed. They don't go up so much if you can. So, kind of across all of the age
Oh,
groups, we find that like the diff and diff estimates are that if you could access the iPhone, it reduced births relative to if you couldn't.
do you think you have an idea of the mechanism? Is it
I
just
think we have a lot
timing?
of ideas, and this is the limit. This is the weak. Like I would say that there's two limitations of the paper. Um, I'll say the strength first, which is I like the identification strategy passes everything we can throw at it. Like we do placebo and time tests. We do placebo tests with places that just have Verizon, and we don't see an effect until Verizon gets the Droid. So like I think the strength is it's pretty compelling evidence that the introduction of the iPhone explained a significant portion of fertility decline. The weaknesses
Yeah,
are one, we can't directly test the first stage mechanism because there's no county level iPhone sales or use information.
absolutely.
Like, so
Yeah.
we don't know. And the second one is with respect to mechanisms, I think there's three broad mechanisms that could be at play. The one
Mhm,
people talk about most often is that it just changes how people spend their time, and the smartphone reduces in-person time and
mhm.
increases time alone. And there's one thing I learned in abstinence only sex ed in Georgia in the 90s. It's that if you're
Yeah.
alone, you won't get pregnant.
Is that what they taught you in Georgia?
That's what they
That's what
taught
that was
us. It
about.
was true. If you
They
just
taught you got to be alone.
yeah. If you're not hanging out in a field with a keg of beer and a bunch of other people, probably not going to get pregnant.
Yeah, you're pregnant.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's the theory
They
people talk
taught
about
us in
most.
Mississippi that you could get pregnant from sitting on the toilet.
Oh, be
So there was,
careful.
I know, stuff could be there. There was all kinds of risks.
Yeah.
I don't feel like a lot of the curriculum was proofread. So I don't know. Keep going.
I mean, yeah. 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 It was interesting times. But the other two mechanisms, the one that my students have brought up to me a lot when I've asked them is they bring up access to pornography. And there's lots of
Mhm,
evidence that smartphones really not only increased access to pornography for young people, but changed the types of pornography they access. It became more extreme. And that this
mhm,
might have both like substituted for sex and also maybe scared some people away from sex. But the
mhm,
third mechanism is maybe it gives young people more information about contraception and abortion. And the truth
mhm,
is, if we can just look at national trends. The national
mhm,
trends are consistent with any of the three of these. Pornography use goes up, time alone goes up, use of
Mhm.
contraception goes up, and we don't have the rich county level data that we would need to try to disentangle mechanisms. And so,
Mhm.
we're agnostic about which ones are likely driving it.
Yeah. I think, Melanie Gouldy has a paper on broadband and fertility, and I think
Yeah.
she leans a little bit on the education part,
Hmm.
learning things, I think is part of
Yeah.
her. One
I
of her things.
wonder though, I think that the effect of is her paper on wired broadband? There's another new
I don't
paper that
know.
is largely about
It's
wired
older.
broadband.
It's in JPOP or demography. I can't remember which one.
Yeah. I think the challenges here, I think there's two challenges in the literature, and I'm not speaking specifically to Melanie's paper, but I think one is that the FCC data on broadband that are self-reported by carriers are kind of notoriously subject to measurement error. And so
Mm,
diff strategies that use it, there's probably a lot of measurement error that leads to attenuation
okay.
bias. We're not relying on just self-reports. We're relying on a snapshot in time when the government was funding mobile speed tests. So we think we've got a really good snapshot in time of where AT&T during this critical period had wireless broadband, sorry.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but then the second issue I would say is wired broadband is giving people greater access to the internet for sure, um, largely within their homes and schools. And so I think that
Right.
I could see that increasing teens accessing information. I'm not sure if they're sitting there on the home computer in the living room accessing
Yeah.
pornography, maybe.
Yeah. That's how
But
you
so
get
I
in
think the
trouble.
wireless wired distinction is really key when you think about mechanisms.
Yeah.
They may be different.
Right. Right. Wow. So it's going to be in the New York Times. It's going to be in the Times. What's the deal? They're like writing a
Yeah,
paper. They're writing a
Yeah,
story about it in the New York Times.
Sabrina Tavernise is covering this and another new paper on the effect of broadband that uses a diff-in-diff strategy that largely it primarily works for wired broadband, and they both point in the same
Mhm.
direction. And I think that it's really important if we're trying to understand, like Scott, sometimes I wonder if I'm a pronatalist because I am very alarmed by declining birth rates. I think that children
Yeah.
are a social good, and I think that declining birth rates, they just oh, this is getting real normative for an economist, but I'm concerned about what it means for the human condition and for human society and for me having grandchildren. And I think we need to start moving away from stories that are, oh, people are just waiting to invest in their education because I don't think that's what's going on. People are not having relationships. They're not forming relationships like
Yeah.
they used to.
Yeah.
And I think the causal evidence is pointing in that direction, and it's
No, I mean,
it's an area that is
the
rich for more
surgeon,
research.
it totally is. There was a Surgeon General report 3 years ago that said we're in a loneliness epidemic, and if you're in a
Yeah.
loneliness epidemic, that does seem correlated with declining fertility if that means people are not being intimate and forming families or something.
Yeah.
It's
Can I tell you
funny
that the
how,
American so I was going to tell you the American Time Use Survey. So we just have trends so we use the American Time Use Survey. These are just national trends. We cannot pull enough statistical power to do something at a county level with the ATUS, but we just look at young people and we use the who file, which is like during activities, who was present. And we just look at
Mm,
activities outside of school where there's a peer present. And between 2004 and the most recent survey, I'm going to get the number because this is off the top of my head. Be slightly wrong, but it is roughly, it goes from about 170 minutes on average a day with peers present outside of
okay.
school in
2004.
2004.
2004.
What,
Yeah.
and it falls to less than an hour today.
It was 147 and now it's like in the 50s, 40s or
Yeah,
50s. So it falls by
I
a
want to
third.
look
It's
up the
like a
exact
third of what
numbers for you. It
it's
falls,
it's like a third of what it used to be.
yes, it's like
Where
a
do they
third.
go? What are they doing instead? Does it say in the ATUS that they're on the phone?
It's no, you can't really pick up on the phone. There's
That's
like
what I
this. I have to
thought.
go
Why
look
are
at
they
the,
not doing? Why are they not asking about phones in
Well,
the
because they
ATUS?
started the lexicon in 2004, and there's been some updates, but the more they change it over time, the less comparable things get. And I think like
Sure.
there's like a time on
But why not
computers.
do it now, though? Why not do it
Yeah,
now? They're not doing that doesn't make any sense. It's 2026.
they should. I don't think they are. It's a great question.
Well, what are they capturing phone use with? Is it something else? Some
Yeah, I
kind of
think there's
digital
this.
question?
Yeah, there's like a big, broad digital category that I mean, I think it's in. In 2004, that made sense. Nobody was staring at their phones in 2004. They were staring at their computers when the ATUS was getting going. And I don't
Yeah,
think they
but
split it out.
I mean, now it seems like it's a big oversight. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
they need to update that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to say something. So, yeah, that's really an important research agenda. I mean, I think that all of these things that deserve a lot. It's really cool in some ways. Okay, I was going to say this. It's funny to hear you say that, and then I thought of Malthus, Thomas Malthus, and he could be on the show right now, and he would have basically said everything you said, but in the opposite. He was
Yes,
so concerned about population growth,
right.
and you're so concerned about the fall. What would you say to Malthus?
Yeah, or like, isn't it Ehrlich who had the population bomb? And in the
Yeah, Paul
70s, like our
Ehrlich. Yep.
parents were all
Mhm.
concerned about the population bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, Malthus was worried
I,
about food. He thought that the growth would outstrip food, but it was like if you read in between the lines, a lot of those old people, they also really thought they seemed to think pretty poorly of the people that were reproducing. They had a fairly they saw it as like a bunch of just sex having kids, I think. But what would you say?
yeah.
You're not you're more concerned about the relationships and the loneliness and the companionship.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think teen births are down 70% since 2007.
Uh-huh.
70%. We have, like, for most of recorded human history, if not all of it, human society's been pretty damn concerned with non-marital sex, like policing and regulating, sex and not having unmarried teens, for instance, having babies. And we've also been
Right.
pretty unsuccessful. Like it turns out teens aren't super responsive to all of the things we try to do. And then all of a sudden in 20 years, it's down 70%. And we don't even know why. Like we didn't do this. None of our policies did this. The National Campaign to Prevent Teen
Yeah.
Pregnancy didn't do this. Um, I am
Mm.
worried for two reasons. The first is that I'm worried that the decline in pregnancies, which is accompanied by a decline in, for instance, like drug use too, like you can see other declines in risky behaviors among young people, is a marker of a social malaise, of a loneliness epidemic, of rising anxiety, of kind of the kids not being okay. And so it's not that I think a
Yeah.
decline in teen pregnancies is a bad thing, but if it in unto itself,
It's
but
a
if it's a
marker.
marker for the kids not being okay, I want to talk about that. And then with respect to like,
Absolutely.
concerns about population bombs, I think they were overblown. Obviously, technology and the agricultural, like kind of revolutions in agricultural technology have so far largely done a lot to keep up with this. Where we've seen famine and insufficient resources, this is caused by failures of human systems. Um, and
Mhm.
also looking at the fact that I'm going to use the word developed. Every developed, I'll put it in air quotes, country in the world, with maybe the exception of Israel, is now below replacement fertility, well below replacement fertility. I don't think we need to be super worried about rising population pressures. I think we need to be worried about a society with depopulation and how we support it. There's actually a great new book that I really recommend. It's by Dean Spears and Mike Geruso, called After the
Mm.
Spike, that really makes this case. So I'll just
Mm.
recommend it to folks. But I think it's an answer to Malthus and Ehrlich, an answer saying maybe declining population is something that we should be worried about.
Is Jeruso an economist?
Yeah, he's at UT Austin.
Oh, he's at UC Austin. Oh, this is a new econ book.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a
They're
popular
two
press econ
economists.
book. Yeah,
Oh, Oh, I thought that's who you meant. Okay. Huh.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'll definitely check that out.
they're great. It's on my bookshelf somewhere. I won't go try
Okay.
to pull it off.
Wow. Well, congratulations that the paper's going to get that kind of attention. That's really neat. You're going to get
Thanks.
a lot of notice. Not as
It's
much
super
as you
cool
get from
being
this
with my son.
podcast,
It's
probably.
yeah.
It's going to get close. No, seriously, go ahead. What were you saying?
Just gonna say it's super fun having to be with my son. It's been really fun writing a paper with him.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet that's so neat. So did he like research?
Yeah, but he has zero desire to be an academic economist.
What,
Be
really?
careful
What's
what
he going
you
to do? Yeah.
he's
I
in
mean,
consulting. He's in
yeah.
management consulting. He loves it. He flies all over and jet sets and thinks about big problems
Wow.
for big companies and then goes on to the next
Okay.
one. And yeah, I have a
Cool.
child who understands my job more than one would ever expect one's child to understand it, and
Yeah.
who categorically rejects it as a future for himself. He's like, that was nice. We wrote a
Oh, that's
paper.
cool. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I hope that gets published well. I hope that you get to experience a publication with your child. That seems really
Yeah,
neat.
thanks.
Well, so we were gonna pick up where we left off, the continuous stuff.
Yep.
And I was thinking, so I've presented or I've taught this, I just finished my fourth week of teaching here in Europe. I was a week in Zurich, a week in Glasgow, a week at Coachella, Madrid, the third year that we've done it. And then I just finished a couple of days at the European Commission in Ispra, Italy. That's where I am right now. I'm on a lake in Italy. And so I've taught continuous every time. And I think from you and me going through this, our deck and thinking about our project and teaching it, I kind of have an idea of what I was thinking we could do today, to pick off a little bit where we left off. And I wanted to just sort of start. I was just gonna kind of lead it, if it's okay, just like lead us through some questions.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So we just published, our paper was just finally put into print. Me, Andrew Baker, your chickens, and me, Andrew Baker, Brant, Bacon, and Pedro. We have a paper called Difference and Differences, a Practitioner's Guide, that was just published in the Journal of Economic Literature. And one of the things that makes it different than these, it's not a survey article. There's a few survey articles. Ours is not a survey article. Ours is exactly what it says, a practitioner's guide. And that means if you think of it like that, it's a practitioner's guide. It's kind of saying, hey, you should do it this way. It's kind of like, because it's saying, if you're going to do it, then do it this way. That's obviously other chickens in your flock would have written a different practitioner's guide, maybe, or maybe not. But that's what ours is. And so the way that we approach it is that there has historically been two different ways that econometricians have approached causal inference. And I'll start with one of them. One of them is called the backwards engineering method. And the backwards engineering method is what Embens and Angrist did in that 94 late paper.
Hmm.
Because what they did in that paper was they didn't say, if you want to use instrumental variables to get the average treatment effect, here is our estimator. They didn't say that. They said, because Heckman had already proved a year earlier that there was no such estimator, that instrumental variables could never get the average treatment effect. And Mansky had said, well, you could get the bounds. So what they did in that paper, and I think this is the first time that it was something like a backwards engineering thing was done, I think, but maybe I'm wrong. What they did was they said, okay, well, if you do IV, then what will you get? And you'll get the local average treatment effect. That was like
Yeah.
that. It didn't start with the local average treatment effect. It said, if you do this method, that's what you'll get. It's called the late. Okay. And that's
Hmm.
like what Andrew Goodman Bacon does in his paper. What Andrew does is he says, if you run a two-way fixed effects regression, you will get this, and it is the sum of three things: the
Hmm.
variance weighted average treated on the treated, the variance weighted parallel trends, and a negatively weighted dynamics on the comparison group's treatment effects. So he's like, and so that's it. So, okay. But what we propose in this, which is traditionally what econometricians have proposed, they say, we'll start with your research question, turn it into a potential outcomes based weighted average of treatment effects, and then build your estimator.
Yeah.
And the
Decide
reason
what
why I'm
you
bringing
want.
decide what you want
Decide what you
ahead of
want
time.
and then build your estimator. Okay.
Exactly. Like, not run a regression and cross your fingers that it's a weighted average of whatever, but it's like start with exactly what you want your weighted weights to be. Do you want them to be population weighted? Then definitely, so forth. Average, if you want the average treatment effect, if you want the average treatment effect, you can't use Diff-in-Diff because it doesn't get it. It only gets the ATT and so forth. So, the reason why I set it up that way is because I haven't been able to stop thinking about this. In our last podcast episode, there was this point where you began to voice something, and I felt like I think I gave the wrong response. We were going through those causal parameters,
Hmm.
and we were looking through the deck that Claude had made,
Yep.
and what he had said, what you began to say out loud, you said it had been bothering you. You said something's been bothering me. And I was like, what? And you go, well, I'm not sure. Are we talking about as the dose in the continuous treatment? It's like the continuous treatment is called a dose. A dose of what? In our case, it is a dose of miles, right?
Yep.
A distance to a provider. And you began to say something really subtle, and I wanted to kind of ask you again to sort of re-say the differences between these two things. You had said, I don't know if our dose is distance to the clinic or if it is the change in the distance to the clinic. Now, can you
Yeah.
tell me again, for the sake of the listener, what was it that you remember asking and why was that bothering you?
Well, in particular, here's my recollection. We were looking at notation where D denoted dose. And somewhat confusingly, D could also denote distance.
Yeah,
But
right.
I said, suppose that we have a county that is 0 miles away from an abortion clinic, and then its distance goes up to 300 miles. And we
Yeah,
have another county that's 50 miles away from an abortion clinic, and its distance goes up to 300 miles. Is treatment 300 miles, like just how far away they are from the nearest abortion clinic? Or is treatment the change in distance, which for one is
yeah,
300 miles and the other is 250? And so
yeah,
I just conceptually, I I got confused and I kept bringing it up over and over again because every time we would look at the notation, I'd be like, wait, which is it? Is it the
yeah,
change in distance or is it the distance?
yep. Okay, so those are not the same thing, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, they're not the same thing because you kind of gave an example. It's like there's a collection of counties after House Bill 2, let's just say, collection of
Mhm.
counties after House Bill 2 that in 2014 are 100 miles from the nearest clinic. Forget what they used to be. In 2014, they are at that point in time 100 miles away.
Yep.
And that is a particular distance.
Yep.
And we can imagine a counterfactual for them. And that counterfactual is a clinic is in their community such that they are 0 miles away. Okay. So that's like, so then that is in 2014, what is the effect in 2014 of being 100 miles away from a clinic? Okay. That's an average, that's a defined parameter with a defined treatment. We could
Yep.
randomize clinics, right?
Yes.
Okay. So but then there is a different thing. Now walk me through how this thing, the change, how is the change in distance different? Let's use that 100 mile. There's like a hundred
Yeah, I
mile
mean,
change. What's
so
different?
in 2014, some of those counties that are 100 miles away from the nearest clinic were always 100 miles away,
Yeah.
right? Distance hasn't changed.
Right.
Others
Right.
used to be closer. That clinic closed. Their distance
Yep.
has changed, right? And so if dose is the
Yep.
distance, they've all got the same dose. But if dose is the change in distance, they don't.
Is then the change in distance, because you can write down elasticities as the percentage change in quantity divided by the percentage change in price.
Sure.
Is that what a distance change in distance would be, the elasticity?
Yes, yes. And I
It
think
would
with
be the
with
elasticity, right?
yeah, or it might be a semi-elasticity depending on how you set it up.
Then
Like
it
I think
well, but if it's
so,
like we could set it up with the Poisson and we could log distance, we could
sure.
it
Yep.
would
If
be
we log distance,
automatically
it'd be an
a
elasticity.
elasticity.
Yep.
But what the first one's not an elasticity, is it?
Right.
It's not, right? It's a level change. Is this a
Well, but no,
meaningful
the first
difference?
one isn't a change. I mean, the first one, the dose is just the amount you've taken. Here's a different,
It's
here's
a
a different way to think
different.
about it, Scott. This is where I kind of get confused. I feel like in a generic setup of continuous diff and diff, I feel like the counterfactual is kind of implicitly a dose of zero. Right. So when you talk
Yeah,
about aspirin or melatonin, you're always like relative to, like implicitly, it's like relative to not taking it at all. Right.
right. Right.
And so the change in the dose is the same thing as the dose because everybody's going from zero to some amount. And so
Yeah.
I don't think you have to get tied up in this. But for us, all of these counties
It's
at baseline, they're not zero. They're all some distance away
exactly.
from a clinic. Nobody's
Exactly.
actually on top of one, right? And
Yep.
so
Right.
everybody is starting off with a positive dose, and then the dose is changing or it's not. And I think that's where I'm just getting tied up in knots
Well,
on
the thing is
patient.
too, Caitlin, the thing is too, the people that experience a change in 100 miles are a different collection of counties than the ones who are 100 miles away.
Right.
That's not the same. Because you could have like you gave that example. We could have a group of counties. All right, we'll say there's 4 counties. 2 counties go from 0 to 100, and they are now 100 away.
Yep.
Okay. And then there is another group of counties that go 100 to 200,
Right.
and they are now 200 away, right? And so
Yep.
when we do the change, it's the average over 4 counties. And when we do
Yes.
the level difference, it's just 2 counties. So
Yes.
you could get different, it's not just different effects, it's different units.
Yes. Yeah.
So how are we going to resolve this? Because it sounds to me like there is no like this is my feeling about these like questions, and you can tell me if you disagree. This is how I teach it anyway. There's no like right or wrong target parameter. It's like we if because all we're saying is like there is a target parameter where it's like I am 100 miles away. I could be zero in 2014. It doesn't matter what I was before. I could have been well, no. You know what? Oh my gosh. Because of this continuous, we have to do the change. Because here's why. The in this estimator, all of the units at baseline must be untreated. That's the common thread of diff and diff is that the no anticipation assumption must hold, which means
Yeah.
that we have to have at baseline y zeros. If they were
Yeah.
all already a distance away, we can't get the level difference. All we can get is the change.
Right. And so this seems to me, kind of you were talking about like how do we want to define treatment? So with a standard two-way fixed effects model, I think I've got kind of a quick intuitive answer and I'm not all tied up in
Yeah.
knots. Like with a standard two-way fixed effects model, the county fixed effects are absorbing the differences in the counties at baseline, right? And all the reasons
Yep.
that they were different.
Yep.
We identify the effective distance in a standard two-way fixed effects model solely from the counties that have a
Yep.
change in distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we
Mm-hmm.
identify the effective distance using the counties where it changes. And so treatment, I guess, is a
Mhm.
change in distance, right? And we interpret the
Yeah,
coefficient
right. Because
as
you're using the within change.
exactly, right? And we interpret the
Right.
coefficient as for a 100-mile increase in distance, we predict blank percent change in the outcome. Like that's our standard approach.
Yeah.
And so as I'm learning this new continuous diff and diff methodology, I'm trying to understand how that translates to the new method. But I do think we're aligned. I think we're understanding that treatment has to be the change in distance
Has
for
to be.
both methods. It has to be the change in distance.
I think that's right. I think because of this assumption called no anticipation, and no anticipation means at baseline, you can write marriage rates as marriage rates when the dose is zero.
Yes.
That because it's got to be a y equals y zero. It has to be untreated at baseline. So if it's untreated at baseline, then it can't be level distance.
Right, because no level distance at baseline is zero.
Because no level distance I mean, it's something about actually, I don't think continuous requires this. I think that our project requires it. Our project says this is the only one we can even answer. We can't answer what is the effect of being 100 miles away from the clinic. We can
Yeah.
answer what is the effect of changing your distance 100 miles,
Right.
whether you're going from 0 to 100 or 100 to 200.
Yes. But I also think
That's it.
so many continuous diff and diff projects are have the same situation, right? Like if you're trying to
I
estimate the
think
effect of
so.
the minimum wage or some policy, like
Right.
everybody's not at zero at baseline. They're at some
Yeah.
positive value at baseline so
Right.
often.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think it's
Yep.
just us that had better, kind of get it straight when they think about how they're defining treatment.
But it does matter for interpretation,
Yes.
right? It does matter for interpretation because we're not going to tell the policymaker this is the effect in 2014 of being 100 miles away. This is the aggregate effect of going up 100. And that's going to combine people that went from 0 to 100 and going from 100 to 200 and going from 200 to 300.
Yeah.
And so, you could easily kind of, this is like such a subtle little point, but, you were picking it up before me. It was a really subtle point about what exactly does dose mean, and we thought it was obvious. I think we're circling back to what we thought it meant, but I'm
Yeah.
kind of circling back for a
I think
different
you gave
reason.
me the right answer, Scott. You
I
said,
think
I
it
think it's
was.
the
I
change
think
in
I did.
distance. But also, I think we've taken a big long pause on it that's valuable. And the other thing I'll just add is in our original model, in our Texas HB2 paper with Jason Lindo and Andrea Schlosser, where we're looking at the effect on abortion rates, we have a quadratic of distance, and we also
Yeah.
have we have different bins for distance because we do think that the baseline distance could matter, right? We do believe that going from 25 to 50 is potentially different than going from 175 to 200. And I've been
Yeah.
filing this away and kind of saying, okay, I strongly believe there are nonlinear effects here and that there are diminishing marginal effects of distance. But for the sake of learning the new estimator, I'm going to set that aside. At least for the moment, I'm just going to pin it and just try to understand the newer estimator in the context of what's the effect
Yes.
of the change in distance, assuming it doesn't matter what your base level was. Because I think we have to for
I think
now to work
I
through.
think that's right. Yes, yes. That kind of I think that's a good attitude in general. It feels like, let me just be curious about this thing and just kind of compartmentalize for a minute my stuff so that I can just be inside this thing, understand it on its own terms, and then I'll come back. It's my thing's not going anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think what we have to do is say, not we approach this continuous thing and we ask what kinds of questions does it force, what kinds of questions can it answer, not are those questions important, not, I think that's what's different. we don't reject it because it can't answer our questions. We just say, well, we have a different question, so we can't use it. I think that's kind of the way you approach this stuff,
Yeah.
and that's like the principle I think of our paper, which is start with your question, put it into a very specific aggregate parameter, and then you use the method that gets there. Don't change your parameter just because there's a fancy new method out, you
Right.
know?
But to decide what method gets us there, I need to understand the fancy new method, and I
Yeah.
still don't fully. So,
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen and let's see. So I have been here. Okay. This is basically I had you're watching me here. I
I
had
love seeing your
Claude.
Claude. I feel like it's like snooping. Like when you go to somebody's
Yeah.
house, do you look in their medicine cabinet? Of course we
No.
do not.
I can't I look at their library. I go look at all the
Oh,
books on
that's
their shelf.
charming.
I'm not
Of
supposed to
course
open
you're
anything.
not. Of course you're not. But suppose somebody opens it for you. You're gonna look. You're like showing
Oh
me your
yeah, if
Claude.
they're
I'm
gonna
gonna
do
look and see
that,
what you're up
absolutely.
to.
No, no,
I'm-
no. I can't help what my eyes look at. Of course, I'm not gonna do that. Um, no, so I'm here. This is kind of a funny thing. This is so typical. I made Claude like book all my hotels and stuff and everything. And so, but I don't know why I did it. And so he put me by this lake called Lake Majora in Arona, which is not Lake Como. It's like to the left of Lake Como. They're both gigantic lakes. And I have to go
Uh-huh.
to the European Commission, which is in Ispra. And guess which side of the lake Ispra is?
Uh-oh.
I give
Is
you
it the other
one. I give you
side?
one. It's the other side. It's not the side that I'm on. And so Claude like got
Is there
me
a water
this great.
taxi?
Yeah, they got me a car. They got me a car to bring me, and they were like, "Why didn't you ask us?" And I was like, "Yeah, exactly. That does seem like now in retrospect, that does seem like what a rational person would have done." But I had a robot do it, okay? And he put me at this beautiful town, and it all worked out. Anyway, that was me kind of like going, that was my screen of all the quad going through what I have to do. All right, so here we go. Did we cover this? I don't remember what we did. Did we do
We
the
did.
dose
Yeah,
response?
we covered this. Yep.
And we did this and
Yep.
with all that stuff?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So we
Oh
talked
my
about
gosh, we
strong
made it way
parallel
farther
trends.
than I remembered. I think we were getting to this. Yes, we covered this. We're, this is going to be the best for people who are just listening as we flip through slides.
What
We
about
did
the
not get to any of
estimation? Did we do
this
anything?
though, so you should go.
Okay. All right. So let's do this. So we've got here, all right. We've got this is an illustration. This is when we have like a couple of different the way they present the paper is that when they get to estimation, all right, there's like two parameters that we were interested in. Let me just point them up right here. So there were two parameters that we could get. One is the average treated on the treated, and everything on the dose response curve is an average treated on the treated. So it's
Yes.
like this is like if I take 50 milligrams, it will reduce of aspirin, it will reduce my headache by 22 points on a headache symptom thing or whatever. It's like, and so what does that mean? If it's an ATT, then it is what is for a person that takes 50 milligrams, what is the effect of taking 50 milligrams?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I'm a 50 milligram person. I took 50 milligrams. My counterfactual is a Y0, which is what you said just a minute ago, which is like for a lot of questions, the counterfactual is a Y0. Go ahead.
And in our case, can we translate this to our case really quickly, which would
Yeah.
be for a county where distance increased by 100 miles,
Yes.
what is the effect on marriage relative to if distance had not changed? That's the
Exactly.
translation for us.
That's it. And that's why it'll include somebody that goes from 0 to 100 and 50 to 150.
Yeah, they're
And
they're the
they'll all
same
be, yeah,
dose.
exactly right. Because the dose is change in the distance. So these people are our whatever that's our 100, they're all 100-mile people. So it's going to collect a lot of weird groups of counties,
Yes,
So
it
it's going to be
is.
like worth just emphasizing. Um and all it's going to be is it's going to average over a bunch of heterogeneity. That's all it's going to be. It's going to be like, yeah, going from 0 to 100 is one thing because now I'm only 100 miles away. And going from 150 to 250 is a different deal. But now
Yes.
I'm actually 250 miles away. And that might be very different. But that's the thing is like this guy right here who went up 100 is in fact 250 miles away. And yet that's the causal of treatment effect for that county, and we're going to average. So if you think like,
Yes.
if you say to yourself, well, going from 150 to 250 is different than going from 0 to 100, we say exactly right. It is. And that is why this is an average. And that's, if you don't like that
Yes.
parameter, that's completely justified to not like that parameter. It's just that that is this parameter.
Okay. That is what we are
Right?
estimating. When we talk about the average treatment on the treated, we're talking about mapping out for any given increase in distance, what is the average effect? And it could be averaging it across counties that are starting at different levels and ending up at different levels. Like in the end, they might be very different distances away, but we're saying, look, just what's the effect of increasing distance by 10 miles or by 50 miles or by 100 miles, regardless
Yeah,
of your starting and ending values. The
exactly.
difference
Okay.
between them
So
just has to be the same.
that is, I'm going to say, uh, because we only need parallel trends to get an average treated on the treated with difference in differences, that is going to be one of the parameters we're going to get. We're going to be getting, we're going to get groups of units who are um, going up by different amounts. And it's kind of interesting, man. It's going to be kind of interesting. It wouldn't be easy to like make that map. It's not going to be as easy to make that map because we don't make a map of people's absolute distance. We have to make a county map of their change in distance, you know? Like,
Yes.
because you could make a map that's like at a point in time, how far away are you? But if our target parameter is not how far away are you, how far away did you change? We need to make a new map that's like Waco is now 50 miles, and so is this other one, even though they might be in absolute distance, it's very different.
Did we not map change in distance?
I think we might have, but we should
We
double check.
definitely did for our original paper. I thought we mapped change in distance. The other thing I'll
Maybe
just
that's
mention
right.
is for all of my distance papers, I also have a scatter plot that shows on the x-axis the baseline distance and on the y-axis the post distance, and the 45-degree line is no
Um,
change, but it lets me see where my groups of counties are starting and going. And so we might want to take a look at that also. Like I think we might want a map of
yeah.
change in distance paired with a scatter plot that lets us get a sense of starting values. But for
Yeah,
now,
we
I
we need
want to
to.
I want to figure out the
Yeah.
estimator.
Yes. Okay. So that's one, and then the second one is this. So the second thing is the ACRT, average causal response. It is the derivative of that dose response curve. So it is this. It's a line. It's a segment between two ATTs, or it is the derivative of it. So if it's multi-valued, it's a segment connecting the 2 points on the ATT curve, or if it is a continuous treatment, it'll be it'll be this. So this would be the other one. Here, I'll draw it. Um, so like it could also be that, like the derivative of it is the derivative because the ACRT is the derivative of this curve. And so we, or if it's multi-valued, it's just the connection of 2 points. So the reason why this is relevant is because the estimator is going to get everybody's. We have 254 counties, but only 253. All right. So we have 253 counties functioning in this data set. We're going to get 253 ATTs effectively because it's going to be like a Loess kind of non-parametric smoothing. So we're going to get this like non-parametric smoothing thing. But the point is this, since we're going to get everybody's ATT, if we connect them, if every dot, all right, every county, all 253 counties is going to get an ATT, and we just connect them, right? Because we're just going to be like, here's the effect here, here's the effect here, and so we connect them. If we connect them, all right, then what are we saying? Well, that's like a policy question to connect a line between two ATTs is a policy question because the policy question is, well, if I go up from 50 to 100, what is the effect? It's like a marginal treatment effect concept, okay? But what they say in the paper is that if you start connecting units, ATTs, it's actually biased. And parallel trends is not sufficient to do it because the ACRT is not the ACRT is not two different groups ATT. It is for the same group, a movement along the causal response function. And we will get, we are going to get actually, we are going to get that ATT. We're going to get that ATT, but um, we are not going to get that one. All right. But that curve where if you want to tell the policymaker, this is the effect of increasing by 50. All right. You have to be clear. Do you mean that that is the difference between two groups, or do you mean to move along? And almost certainly the policymaker is saying to move along. I want to know because I'm going to decide if I'm going to move all these clinics a little bit closer such that people don't have to travel 50 or something. I mean, that's kind of the idea anyway. So it's like if they are different and they have different dose curves and you just compare them, it's like Pythagorean theorem type thing. You get distance here and it's not the line of interest because of this selection bias. And so what they say is that parallel trends is not sufficient to get the ACRT when the ACRT is for a given curve, unless this, unless everybody has the same curve, which you would
Right.
get in a randomized control trial. So if the treatment is random, quasi-random, you would get it, you know? But that's testable because you could just look at the covariates to see if they're the same for the treatment and control groups, and it's probably not. But in a randomized control trial, it'll be the same. Everybody will be randomized. That means everybody's potential outcomes are randomized, which means their dose curves are identical for the treatment and control group. So, in order to get in order to get this, they introduce a new uh, identification assumption on top of so you can get everybody's ATT with parallel trends, but to get a line, you need what's called strong parallel trends, which is not strong like a strong person. It's strong as in hard. It's strong in that it is a stronger statement because what it
Yeah.
means is that everybody's Y1 and Y0 is the same. It's like a homogeneous treatment effects assumption that not homogeneous in the sense that everybody's ATT is the same across the curve. It's saying everybody has the same curve. Everybody has the same curve.
Yep.
So what we're gonna do is, well, okay, we're gonna be like, we're not requiring strong parallel trends. We're saying their paper requires it. Okay. And then we got to decide, and then we're gonna have a second thing where we're gonna have this long deal of talking it out. But right now, we're just gonna say, uh, standard parallel trends lets us get the effect of the change for groups of units that have the same change under parallel trends. And then uh, strong trend says this: if these two communities, all right, if these two communities, here, let me do it here, had both, so here's a community that has 100, and this is a community that has 50. If the effect of everybody having a 50 is the same, then there is no selection bias.
Right.
That's this. So that's what strong parallel trends means. It means it's like a big counterfactual because it says if all of us were at 50, would we all have the same response? If the answer is yes, that means we all have the same curve. If the answer is no, that means we have different curves and probably means the treatment wasn't random. Because I mean it does mean that. So here we go. All right. Here. All right, this is one of the things they say, like, and this is kind of in the vein of what we did in the JHR, because this is a binning concept. Okay.
Hmm.
They say, all right, well, like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do it? and somebody raises their hand that goes, I have an idea. Why don't we just say, well, no, first what they do is this. They go, how are we going to do this? And the experiment is there's a group of units that get 0 dose, there's a group of units that get 10, and there's a group of units that get 20. Okay.
Hmm.
And they go, and somebody says, I want to get the average treatment on the treated for them, and I want to get the average treated on the treated for them. And the
Hmm.
teacher says, no problem. Take the first difference for everybody. So this is 2014 marriage minus 2013 marriage. Do it for everybody.
Hmm.
There's the 0 group, the 10 and the 20. Take the difference. That's a new number. The 0 group is the 0, which remember, we are missing for them and we're missing for them.
Right.
Parallel trends lets us replace it. Parallel trend says, well, if everybody's change on average had gone up by negative 1.75, yours would have gone down negative 1.75. Yours would have gone down negative 1.75. Yours would have gone down negative 1.75. Yours didn't. It went this. That
Right. The
that's
difference
your
between what we see and for your treated group and what we see for this control group with 0 dose is
exactly.
the
It's
two
an,
by two diff-in-diff
the
estimate.
exactly. The control group is imputing the counterfactual Y0 even at the dose level. Even
Hmm.
for the dose, to get the ATT, we use an
Right.
imputation. It's a standard diff and diff. It's an
Right.
imputing of the counterfactual. We're just not saying that if you go from 10 to 20, it would go up by that much. We're not saying that because all we're
Right.
saying is, well, that one is that one and that one is that one. And if you would say, well, what's the difference? And all you would say is, well, that's just the difference between two groups ATT. I'm not saying that this group, had you gone over here, would have had the same effect though. I'm
Right.
not saying that. I'm just saying that's theirs. To say
You're
more than
estimating
that
an
when you look,
ATT for each of the two dose groups separately
yep, yep,
by making
using the
their
same group.
counterfactual 0. And the
Yep.
point you're making, let me make sure I understand, is that for each of those two dose groups, that provides an ATT, but that you don't
Mhm.
necessarily want to difference the ATT for the two treatment groups.
You can, but it doesn't mean what people want it to mean, which is
Right.
they want it to mean that I can now increase these people's dose by 10 and it'll go up by you know, that amount. And
Right.
that
And
may or may not be true.
right. And if 10 and 20 were randomly assigned, if this were an RCT,
It would be
that would
exactly.
likely be true. That would be okay. But the
That would
point
be
is,
true.
you're worried that because treatment wasn't randomly assigned, there may be other factors that make them respond differently, right? Like they have different
Yeah,
curves. So you can't just difference their two ATTs.
exactly.
Okay.
And you can, but it's not causal. It's not
Yes. Okay. Yeah,
unless
you
we
could always
assume
subtract.
you can always do it. Nobody's gonna. No, it's a free country, so we can. So here we go. So we have these two target parameters. So you can ignore this one. We could now we have to kind of go like, what are the things? So we did. So let's say we have continuous treatment. All right, I'm gonna ignore this one for now. So binning. This is our situation because no, there isn't just 2 doses. There's 253 doses, probably something a lot because it's continuous. It's not
Yeah.
multi-valued. So nobody's actually doing. There's not 2 places that are doing 50. It's like some people's doing 49 and some's doing 52. So, so what could you do? Well, you could bend them. You could bend them. You could say, this is the 150, 0 to 50. This is the 50 to 100. This is 100 to 150. This is 150 to 200, right? And you go,
Yeah.
I'll just take a histogram. I'll average, average, average. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll just say delta Y0 and your treatment effect is going to be this amount. So like that's that group's treatment effect. That's that group's treatment effect. That is that group's treatment effect, and that is that group's treatment effect. And so
Right.
you've just been them, but look how much heterogeneity there is. There's a lot of heterogeneity in there. But and again, it goes back to what we were saying, which is like, yes, there is a lot of heterogeneity, but we're averaging. But see, this is a different kind of heterogeneity. This is not a heterogeneity in treatment effects. This is a heterogeneity in dose. That's different.
Yeah.
That is not the same thing as that's they could all have the same treatment effect. We've just we are now comparing people it's like if we did an RCT of fentanyl and you're like, what is the effect of fentanyl? And you like did a big bend and you were like, I'm gonna put everybody that's getting one unit of fentanyl and 100 units of fentanyl into the same bin and just like did a Diff-in-Diff. Well, that's like very different doses, and you're going to probably find that fentanyl kills people when a small dose doesn't do that. So here we've bend it, but it's probably like not the parameter we it's not ideal, okay? But it's probably not the worst thing for you and I to do like Earth on the same because just so we can get on the same page, right? So it's probably like a good first cut, but it's definitely not what we would want to report. So like the value of it is that it's really easy just to interpret. It's like, yeah, like this is really easy to interpret. Like that's an ATT. That's an ATT. I know what I did. I imputed delta Y zero. I get it. There's four ATTs because I averaged them. So
But
like
Scott, isn't
that's
there,
kind of
so I feel like there's a risk here. So if we were to bin, and on our JHR paper, a referee insisted that we bin, I wanted a polynomial specification, and we basically had if you'll recall, I was really, really resistant to this because I felt like it fundamentally was letting the
yeah.
referee rewrite the paper, but they were like, you must bin to publish, and so we put the polynomial in the appendix. But um, I have here's my concern. When people bin, a lot of folks regard it as like semi-parametric estimation, and their temptation is to compare, like if you have just a kind of a standard diff-in-diff regression and it has a set of categorical variables for how far away distance is, they want to difference any two sets of estimators to see how the curve is evolving over time. And I think that, for instance, with this example that we're looking at, if there's a linear effect of the dose, and each bin is going up by like an equal amount, then they should each increase. The average treatment effect should increase by the same amount every time, right? And so the temptation in your example would be to look at this and say there's a diminishing effect of dose because going from the third to the fourth bin doesn't have as big of an additional effect as going
Yeah.
from zero to the first. But so I think, first of all, the
Right.
point of this literature is you shouldn't be differencing them. You shouldn't be comparing them unless you believe
Unless
that
you're willing to assume strong parallel trends.
unless you're willing to assume strong parallel trends. So by binning it, I think you're almost inviting a reader to assume strong parallel
Yep.
trends, but that's fine. The other
Yep.
concern that I've got is in a situation like ours with distance, the bins are completely arbitrary. There's no policy
Exactly.
reason to be like, oh, the first one should be like 0 to 50. Like they are completely arbitrary. And
Yes.
if you know your data well, you can just select bins to produce some desired outcome that has some big high
Yep.
population county just on one side of things. Like,
Yep.
I don't like it. I feel like binning is a
No,
way to
no.
actually, instead of being like, people want to present it as nice and semi-parametric and flexible. I'm like, mm-mm-mm. I think it's a way to cherry pick your result. So
It's a
I'm not
that's
super
what
fond of it.
Claude. Yeah, totally. This deck is based on Kyle Butts's deck, and so that he taught at Coachella last year. But that's one of
Mhm.
the things it says. The choice of the bin width is discretionary. So that
Yeah.
means that it's a part of that researcher degrees of freedom.
Yeah.
And
And
so that is go ahead.
it's not super visible. People don't get how
Yeah,
much you can mine the data by choosing the bin. I don't
of
like that.
course. Of course, absolutely, absolutely. So the pros of it is to it's easy to okay. This is the here's putting aside that here's the pros though. Pros and the cons are dominating in your mind. So, but the pros are well, it's easy to do it. Okay, because it's four averages and three subtractions, so it's easy to do it. You can just do a diff and diff four times. It's really easy to communicate it. You could say the effect of 50 to 100 is this. The effect of 100 to 150 is this, and done. And then
Yeah.
bins can be chosen, you know, maybe there's like policy thresholds that are exogenously determined by, for some reason that can be done. But this one is what I was saying, which is actually in Imbens and Rubin's book. their book in 2015 on causal inference, they have this discussion of the SUTVA violation, stable unit treatment value assumption. Usually, SUTVA is thought of as spillovers, externalities. I got treated and then I coughed on you and then you got treated. Like that's a SUTVA violation because the potential outcomes are supposed to be stable. They're supposed to be invariant to what happened to me. Okay. But they say this interesting thing. They say it's also hidden. It also is violated if you have hidden variation in the treatment,
Yeah.
which means like if you've got lots of units with lots of different treatments and you've combined them, it is technically not like mathematically. It's not even saying it's ethical. It's just saying that the actual definitions of potential outcomes, if you have got a Y1, that means everybody got the identical one. If you have a Y0, that means everybody got the Y0 because that's what you would do in an RCT. So if it's binary, that's what you're doing. All of this is the framework of the experiment. And we just violated it. We violated it here by binning. We're no
Yep.
longer cooperating with, we have hidden variation in
Yes. And let me maybe restate that just to make sure I understand
treatment.
it. I think if you
So,
could go back, Scott, to the scatter plot, I think there's two issues that concern me about that. So the first one is by binning, you're just throwing away variation, and variation is sacred. It's like Monty Python, every
yeah.
sperm is sacred, you want the freaking variation. You should not be throwing out useful variation. And
Yes.
the second concern that I have is you have a scatter plot where the dose looks like pretty uniformly distributed above zero.
Yeah.
But in
Mm.
reality, you can have them kind of clustered and you could choose bins where within one bin, most of your counties are towards the top of that bin. And in the next bin,
Yeah.
most of them are at the bottom. And then you look
Yeah.
at them and you're like, oh, there's really like kind of no effect of going from one to the other, when in fact they were clustered within the bins to be very close together. And that's kind of again why I'm concerned that you can manufacture whatever result you desire by just choosing where you draw
Yeah.
the line for your bin.
Right. 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 That's yes, exactly. Exactly. So we're on the same page, I think, which is that was fun. We're not going to do it. So
Wish we
we're
could have
basically
told the
like,
referee all that. I'm still
yeah,
mad.
right.
It's been 10 years. I can't
So
let it go. I can't even pin those.
we also don't have a standard error. This is the other thing is that let's say that we did assume strong parallel trends, that we don't have a standard error for the continuous object.
Right.
We have a standard error for the bins. So that was the other thing is they say that too. So you could also do this. You could do some kind of this is where it so this is the estimator. I'm going to
Yes.
start with like I'm going to start with the non-version, like the non-fancy one. All right.
Mhm.
So you could replace the bins with like something non-parametric smoothing. So like a kernel or a spline, and you might get something like this, like a Loess
Yep.
smoothing thing,
Can
or
I
like a
just have a
fan
polynomial?
regression or something. Yes, you can. You can have a polynomial. We can do
That's my favorite.
splines. All right. Oh shoot. Let me show you on my thing. Hold on. I have a better one. So let me show you the way that I did it at ISPRA so you can see the because Claude didn't do it. So let me show you the spline. So boom, splines. Look at these splines. So I got knots. All right. This is the first I've never really have learned splines. So like this is kind of the first time I've got it. So I've got like three knots that divide the dose range into four regions, and then it is a cubic polynomial within it. That's a spline.
That's
And
lovely.
if you did it in Stata, like you could do MKS or MK spline, generate these basis columns, and then run a regression, do the prediction, and then scatter plot it. And you get that pretty thing, right?
Yep.
That's just like, and that's like local regressions, like local linear regressions, except
Yeah.
that we've created these splines and we have control over the spine. So they're with the knots anyway. So we have control over the knots. So there's like
If you,
researcher degrees of freedom
yeah,
in controlling the
if you
knots.
don't have any theoretical reason to cut the regions, you don't have any theoretical
Yeah.
basis to say, like, here's where I should draw these knots. Should you just estimate a higher order polynomial, or is there still an advantage to the spline approach?
Ah, a
You can pin that
global
if you want,
polynomial.
but
It might have, yeah, I'm not positive. I'm not positive why you can't just, I don't have a good answer for why you can't do the global polynomial. It might be, it might be that the global polynomial, maybe you don't want to because I mean in regression discontinuity, you usually don't fit the global polynomial either. You'll do these local linear regressions around some optimal bandwidth or some arbitrarily chosen bandwidth. And so it could be that the higher order polynomial might overfit in the way that this cubic won't. I'm not
yeah,
positive about that though,
yeah.
but that could be part
Okay.
of it. That could be part of it. So, but how about this? How about this? That's the spirit of it. That's sort of
Yes.
the spirit of what we're talking about, which is we're trying to get a smooth function.
I like this much
Okay.
better than binning.
Benning, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Another one is to do kernel regressions, where we're going to average the outcomes from the nearby observations with these little weights. All right.
Yep.
And then like you can fit these things. And like the red one here is got an H of zero point 0.4, which is going to be this teeny tiny little bin. And then you like within the bin, you take averages and you're just like moving the bin. You're just moving zero point 0.4 all the way across. And as you move it all the way across, you take averages and look, it's just kind of bouncing around because it's so small. Because you
Yep.
could imagine a bin that went to nothing, then it's
Yeah.
just each observation. And if it was just each observation, you'd be basically overfitting on the noise. So here it's like optimal. It's not we've not done optimal. We're just like, again, the researcher is choosing a few different kernel or windows for the kernel, but it's the same idea. Is this polynomial idea, but it's like if you notice what both of these are doing is they're not like global fits. They're not like when they fit this line, they're not using all the data. They're just using the local, like a few, they're using some window of data, and then they're just taking averages across a moving window. All right. Versus fitting one big polynomial. And you can do that L poly. All right. So, and there's that. You get this kernel regression estimate. All right. And it allows it to move. Both of them are doing something similar. So, what they're going to do is they are going to use a fancy paper that was published in quantitative economy. Is it quantitative economics or is it quantitative econometrics? Do you
I don't
remember?
even know.
It's the daughter of econometrica. It's one of the econometrica, like it's their AEJ applied sort of.
Okay.
Chen and Christensen have written two papers, and then that might be the same Chen, I'm not positive, where they
Mhm.
are so they've got a sieve regression, and the sieve regression is using splines, polynomials, which you wanted to do, and something called wavelets. And they approximate an unknown function by some finite dimensional basis. I don't know what that is. And let the basis grow with the sample. But it's one of these, things that's removing a lot of the researcher degrees of freedom. And it's like a
Uh-huh.
data-driven
Yes.
approach.
Yeah.
So that kind of addresses what you were wanting, which is to move away from cherry picking, because it should be that if we all use this, we all should get the same thing, and
Yes.
then confidence intervals. So this is like the point estimate, and this is confidence intervals.
Okay,
Honest
I'm liking
confidence
it.
band. So the honest confident bands, what it's doing is, see this right here. Technically, these are not necessarily connected to each other because you were just getting it. You were kind of getting it like from the local fit. And so, but now it's like one uniform band, covers the whole curve at once. And this is how basically it works. This is Brant, Bacon, and Pedro's, your chickens. Package in R, CONTDID, continuous diff and diff. And okay, so I'll tell you what it is. It wraps that method here with its inference into it, and then this is what it's going to do. Uh, Center the outcome. That's what, centering it means take a first difference for everybody. Take a first difference for everybody at the individual level, not averages, individual first differences. So Waco, McLennan
Okay.
County gets a first difference, Harris gets a first difference. All right. And then subtract from it the average first difference for our zero dose counties. So this is a
Okay.
bunch of counties, and then this is one.
Okay.
Okay. And then delete it out. Okay. Then so now we have a new number. All right, we have a new number, which is the first different the diff and diff, the 2 by 2 at the individual level.
So for every
Take
county where distance increased, we
yeah,
calculate their change in marriages over
yeah,
before, one after period, right?
yeah,
Minus the change in marriages in the counties where distance didn't change at all. It has to be
yeah.
exactly zero.
And we can get that under the average tree under the parallel trends. So that's
Okay.
the thing too, is like we just need parallel trends right now. We just need it.
Yep. Okay.
But the reason we are okay, so that's what we're getting. And then we're going to regress this, which is is a diff and diff at this point. We're regressing a diff and diff coefficient onto all these splines using
Hmm.
only the treated units. We've got these knots, and then we bootstrap. This is how we're getting the confidence intervals. We bootstrap it. And here's what we have to assume for this method. We have to assume this for this method. If we want this curve to mean the effect of going from 50 to 51, the marginal effect, the derivative of it, we have to assume strong parallel trends, which says every
Yes.
county would have the same response if they had all been changed by the same amount, no matter where it
Yes.
is.
Yep.
Okay. Smoothness, we have to, then there's a bunch of math stuff. We have to assume smoothness, overlap, and we have to use some method of picking the knots, and they recommend cross-validation or researcher choice.
Yeah.
This is the only,
And
this is the social science one, and these are math ones.
yes, I
Go
just
ahead.
have to nod to what is pinned. And I promise, as usual, we're talking for a really long time. I'm not gonna pull it off the
Yeah.
bulletin board right now, but for me, pinned is that
Yeah.
I think we probably both think that the effective distance increasing depends on baseline distance, and that could be a
I know.
problem here. But I'm going to leave it pinned. Okay,
Yeah.
go on. I get it. So this
We're gonna leave it
strong
pinned.
parallel
Yeah.
trends is the
That's
load
our,
bearing assumption. I
yes.
get it. I get it. I don't believe it in our case, but I'm willing to
Right.
carry on
Right.
as though I do.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. So then here's the non-parametric smoothing. Here it is. Okay, so this is basically the method right here. All right. So this is at least from maybe this is not. We're gonna have to. I don't actually know what ours is gonna look like because there's no confidence intervals here. So we're gonna have to check.
Yes.
But we're gonna have to
Do you
check.
know you're
But
still in
basically,
your ISPRA slides, by the way? You flipped over from
yeah, I know
ISPRA
because
to
I
still.
didn't. I don't think that it's making the picture. Oh, here
Okay.
it is. Here we go. Here we go. Now, let's hold off on ours because I want us to I want us to do ours
Me too.
and make sure we did it right. So let's just look at an example. All
Okay.
right. So this is like from a tariff paper that was in AJ
Okay.
policy that we replicated.
Uh-huh.
So here's the effect. So you could do a linear or you could do a spline. And so as the tariff increases, the estimated ATT is falling and the line, so any point on the line is at ATT and you only need parallel trends. But the line itself needs strong parallel trends. So the points don't need strong parallel trends, but the connecting of the points
Right.
need, and that's an interpretation of the line because it just means that if I want to say that if I was to increase, but now we'll go to ours. If I was to increase distance, in counterfactual 10 to 20 miles, it will cause my ATT to go change by this amount. If that's what I'm going to say, right? I need strong parallel trends. And I think in our next thing, we got to really sit down and just go, what the heck would strong parallel trends mean?
Yes.
You know,
Right.
because I mean, I think you're already like, you're there faster than me, but I do catch it a little slower. So I want us on the next slide, the next one. What I want to do in the next one is to do it. We'll use
Yeah.
Claude to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
But then I want us to actually sit down and go, if I was to believe if I was to believe strong parallel trends, what would I be saying?
Right.
Okay. So, but here's the other thing though. Check this out. You can do an event study. Because if you can go into the pre-period where there was no change in the dose, but when there was no change in distance, but you took your people that were changing and you estimated their thing, if it's not flat,
Yeah.
that's like a crooked event study.
Right. It's big red
So we
flag.
can't do it. And we have a lot of pre-treatment data, so we should be able to do this.
Yes. That's nice. That's really nice that we can do that.
Yeah. So all right. So let's so let's stop there. So what did we learn? What do you think? I talked that whole time. Tell me what your head is.
Okay, so here's where my head is. Um, the challenge that we face with our particular paper is that different counties received different changes in distance. And we want to understand how different changes in distance produce different changes in marriage rates. But if we want to compare those counties, we have to make this strong parallel trends assumption. And for me, we're kind of pinning whether we really believe that. But where I'm coming away from this is that we should be using fancy methods that let us map out potentially complicated, nonlinear ATTs. How's that? What do you think?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That's it. I think that's right. With this caveat real quick, of course, we can always compare groups. We just cannot interpret the comparison as the
Yes.
ACR. I know
Yes.
that that's what you meant, but I just wanted to say that
Yes. We cannot
I just want to
interpret
keep
the comparison of
rehearsing.
groups as the ACRT
Yeah.
unless we're willing to believe that they all would have responded the same to different potential counterfactual changes in distance, which
Yeah. It's that
is a
heterogeneous,
real leap.
it's the heterogeneous, it's that heterogeneous treatment effect stuff just biting us again. I think that's
Yeah.
like I think what all this is, that's what's been going on. I think the heterogeneous treatment effect stuff hit IV in the early 90s, but it's
Yes.
hitting diff
Right.
and diff in the late 2010s and the early 2020s. It
Yeah.
just took
But
a little
for
bit longer, but that's what happened with them.
I think that's exactly right. But for me, I guess what I'm still stuck on, and I'll pose this for as we continue to work on this, is I have a very specific hypothesis about why we would have heterogeneous treatment effects. And that very specific hypothesis is that there are diminishing marginal effects of increase in distance. And so what I'll just pose to you
Mhm.
is if I
Yeah.
explicitly model this as we did in our standard two-way fixed effects model, I have if we have a flexible quadratic, might we still be okay with the traditional approach? That's what I'll
Right,
pose as
right.
kind of the question that still
Yeah.
does
Does the
all this new
traditional approach,
fancy do all these new fancy things actually get me somewhere if and there's a big if, but if I have a good idea of where the heterogeneity comes from and I think I can kind of explicitly incorporate that into the model.
yeah. I think the answer is that I think that this smoothing thing is taking away the researcher degrees of freedom, though. So
Yeah.
you're gonna be able to say along because you can't get the ATT at the unit level. So you're gonna start binning. You're gonna group them with dummies, and then we're back in that world of okay, we're combining stuff. And then I think the second thing is we're not positive that kind of bend out regression actually is getting to the target parameter of interest because it wasn't doing it with two-way fixed effects. We don't know what it was doing with two-way Poisson, but it wasn't doing it with two-way fixed effects because of all this weird stuff, weird weights. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
thing we are sure we're getting here is the points
Yes.
are approximating this like target parameter of
Yeah.
interest and
We're
probably
doing a
is really easily interpretable, you know,
yeah. So we think
and
we're doing a
easily
better
misinterpreted.
yeah.
Go
We
ahead.
think we're doing a better job of getting all the ATTs, but we're not
Yeah.
sure. We're not sure about connecting them.
And not sure about connecting them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And you know what? Actually, maybe that referee did us a favor by taking that polynomial and putting it in the appendix because we would have been saying as you move across distance. And that would have been an ACRT interpretation.
But that's what we were saying with the binning too. That's how we
I
interpreted
know.
it.
I just thought that.
Yeah.
But we could
Same
still not
thing.
say. We could definitely not say it with the bends. We could say, yes, we were saying that, but
Yep.
also you could take those coefficients and not say that. You could just say that
Yeah.
it's what it is. And maybe what we were doing is we were implicitly invoking strong parallel trends. That's how I read that kind of thing. We were just saying
Yes.
that. And this is going to be a new project where we go, okay, let's relax that.
Yep.
Or, or maybe you and I are going to think of something cool where we say, oh, maybe we could like, maybe there's a test for strong parallel trends that you and I kind of like come up with.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people do that with parallel trends. They do the event study.
Right.
So, maybe you and I could be creative. And I mean, we're creative people. Maybe we'll think of something.
Sounds good.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Could
right.
be.
So
All
we're gonna
right, Scott.
see.
It
We're
was
all right.
fun as always.
As always.
Every time I make we record, I get like a little bit further along in understanding all of this new methodology, which is very good for me. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for being a partner on all this, the odd couple. Thank you a lot. I should tell you, Caitlin, uh, because they're saying it to me. I know people are saying stuff to you, but people are telling me that they're gaining so much from just listening to us kind of just talk out the research, not just about the things, but how we think. And they've repeatedly told me they're learning so much from the how you think. And so I do appreciate you just being yourself on the podcast.
Aw, shucks. Well, it's fun. I'm happy it's useful for folks. I sometimes worry they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Scott and Caitlin have been talking for hours about new continuous
Caitlin,
DID, but yeah, but we're getting
they're
there.
drawing lines. They're drawing lines on a curve. This is how did I was told there would be no math. I was told there would be no visual,
Right.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Well, buddy, I'll
See you
see you in a
next
week.
time.
Give those little chickens a little tell them Uncle Scott said hey.